everybody. Welcome again to Ideological Forks. I'm your host, Rachel, and with me is Dewey, who goes by Nikoalakuma online, and he is also a trans male from Australia. Dewey, welcome to the podcast.
Hello there. Hello, cool beans and jelly beans. I hope you all are doing well. It's nice to be here.
Dewey, how many times do you think you might have come to a sort of fork in the road and changed your politics as a result?
I feel like not a lot has changed over time because I was always very left-leaning, very I guess punk type politics, but I guess it changed maybe, if I were to make a rough guess, maybe 2 or 3 times.
Sure. Well, I guess let's rewind just a bit. What would you say your first ever political ideology was?
I think this was in 2008. I was around 12 at the time, and this was back in primary school. Mm-hmm. And there was something on this television show on ABC in Australia, on this the show called Behind the News, which is basically like a sort of a news show for primary school aged kids to learn cute. About the news and what's going on and stuff.
Yeah, we had in America we had Nick News for sure. There was Nickelodeon News.
Oh my god.
The Disney show also had a news channel for kids, and it was significantly more conservative. And after 9/11, they had Hillary Duff and other Disney celebrities go up and tell us about how great freedom is, and supporting the war.
Oh no.
Nick News was a bit more progressive. I remember in 2002 they interviewed a bunch of Muslim American kids asking them their perspective, which was I'd say it's pretty progressive for its time. Especially 2002, right? That's yeah. But anyways, tell us, what was this called?
It was called Behind the News, or BTN.
Okay.
So for context, there was a thing that unfortunately happened in Australia called the stolen generations, where Indigenous or Aboriginal children were taken away from their families from the government to be raised more white, I guess, if that makes sense. And that was the first thing I remember when learning about it that made me go, oh shit, this is actually really fucked up, and it made me really sad. What the fuck? And there was this whole thing of Kevin Rudd apologizing for that said generation with Indigenous folk and stuff. And some Indigenous folk accepted the said apology. Others still think it's not enough after everything that happened.
Yeah.
I think it was one of the first things that really opened my eyes as well to how Aboriginal people were treated, and just going no, that's not okay. That's fucked.
How did you think Aboriginal people were treated before watching this program? What does Australian education, I suppose, teach about this sort of thing?
I guess they teach the Indigenous folks stories and history and music and art. That's the main thing I guess I remember back then. But I think I just always thought, oh, that's cool, but I didn't realize how heavy and how much basically the British kind of screwed over a lot of Indigenous culture here in Australia. And I felt that was one of the first things that made me go, yeah, this country sucks sometimes.
I see.
I guess the second fork for me was when I was in my teen years and starting to learn more about politics, where I was just having this massive hate boner for one of the prime ministers at the time named Tony Abbott, where I just thought he was just a big fucking onion-eating dumb piece of shit, and I hated half the shit he was for.
Oh, what was he for? Tell us about this onion eater.
I think he was more sort of right leaning over here. This is going to be very confusing for the Americans listening to this, but over here in Australia, we call, like, I guess more the right-winged party, like, the Liberal Party, which I know, very confusing. And he was more on that side of things, where he was, like, anti, like, asylum seekers, aka, like, refugees, and was, like, anti-climate change, like, racist, and I don't remember everything. All I remember was in my teen years, I just had this massive, like, hate boner for this guy, and just thought him and his values and all that were just, they just genuinely pissed me off, and I'm like, and I guess that was, like, the second fork for me realizing, oh wow, politics in Australia fucking suck.
That's interesting. What's the name of the more left-wing party in Australia?
People say Labour, but they're kind of more in the middle, to be honest. The more left-leaning parties, I think, over here are, like, the Greens. There's this one called the Greens. There's also the Socialists, the Greens. I think there's a few other ones, but I can't think of any at the top of my head. And what I call more the conservative clown side would be the One Nation Party. And
that already sounds bad.
It is so fucking bad. Like, if you ever look into anything about Pauline Hanson, it's like a fucking circus. It's, oh God.
I don't even need to look into it. I know exactly what their politics are because they're called the One Nation Party.
Yep.
Oh, brother.
Just, Jesus Christ.
What made you interested in sex positivity?
For one, I guess my own personal shame I've had over the years regarding sex as a whole, and I guess the subject and stuff about, like, kinks and sexual things in general. Like, I've always had, like, a genuine, like, curiosity and interest in. I guess just in general, the subject always, like, genuinely interested me, and I guess I liked the idea of, like, having confidence in that type of thing, especially with my own, like, self-esteem issues in general. So
do you feel like society can be, like, a little too puritanical?
Yes, absolutely, especially now with, like, how they're, like, censoring, like, sexual work at times, or, like, art and stuff, and that just, yeah.
In terms of sex positivity, isn't it possible that, like, sex positivity could be, like, harnessed and used in a way that exploits women, for example?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. It definitely can, and I especially don't agree on the parts that exploits women and as a whole, but I was more bringing up, like the non-exploitive side of it, you know, like independent, like, sex workers, or, like, people having their own, like, confidence and independence, like, regarding sex. I always thought that was, like, a very powerful thing, I guess.
I see what you mean. I guess when it comes to sex workers, is it independent if, like, you know, because, like, I mean, with a sex worker, right, somebody comes in, and presumably the person that you're having sex with, like, wants certain things done to them that one might, like, a sex worker herself might, you know, like, I guess, like, how independent does the sex worker feel if she's given money and like, sort of has to do these types of things ultimately to, like, please a customer, really? Do you have any thoughts and feelings about that type of thing, where it's like, if there's a monetary transaction, you know, I do wonder, like, how much freedom is really happening.
I can't speak on behalf of, like, sex workers, because, like, I'm not one myself. If anything, I envy the confidence sex workers have to do that kind of thing. Sure. But that's just a me thing personally. But, like, I guess it just kind of depends on the individual, why they're doing the work. Do they enjoy it? Like, it kind of depends on, I guess, the situation. And I guess it is true, like, is it independent if it's, or so, like, if there's, like, money involved, or, like, or if it's something they wouldn't normally do, I guess. So those are very completely understandable questions that I wish I had the proper answer for, but one, I'm not a sex worker myself, and two, I am small-brained. I understand, like, the whole, like, male gaze regarding, like, women characters and all that, but, like, there's also nothing wrong with, like, a woman or people in general having, like, the sexual confidence, if that makes sense. Like, I got very more left-leaning as I got older, especially after, like, after the, I guess, the Gamergate years.
Ring the bell, everybody. We've got another Gamergate mention.
Hello, everyone. Brief interruption. This is Rachel on the editing room floor of this podcast. I've done 11 interviews so far, and Gamergate has come up in 4 of them, including this one. I feel like this is going to be a recurring theme in future episodes, so I've decided to make a separate podcast episode compiling all the interviewees who believe Gamergate informed their politics and their stories around it. Thank you. Now, back to the interview.
I didn't hate feminism. I still don't. I do think it's a good concept. I just don't like the people who take it to certain extremes. It's the same with, like, anything, really, to be honest. Or in the case of feminism now, I mainly just hate TERFs.
Oh, yeah, that's fair. Yeah.
Like, no shit, I'm a trans man, of course I hate TERFs.
Yeah, well, but, like, I almost feel like that's not taking feminism too far. That's, like, taking feminism not far enough, in my opinion. Like, I feel like actual feminism should be, like, trans-friendly.
Absolutely, 100%, but for whatever reason, the TERFs are like, oh, we don't see these, like, trans women as actual women because they don't have a vagina, and I'm just like, shut the fuck up.
Would you like to talk about, like, sort of discovering that you were a trans man?
Yeah, this happened, I think, during like, I think 2021, 2022, so this was during, like, still during, like, the pandemic, especially during, like, the really extreme lockdown that was in my area in Melbourne. We were known for having one of the most very strict lockdowns over here in my area. And I was thinking of an old character I made from an old story I wrote in my teen years named Dave, and I was thinking about him, and when I cosplayed as him once, and I was like, oh, wait a minute, I am Dave. I can be Dave. And I was gonna go with calling myself Dave at first, but then I decided I think Dewain's better, because it means song in Celtic.
Oh, cool.
And, you know, I love music, I love singing, so I was like, I'll go with that. Like, I still use Nicola for, like, my koala character. I mean, it's in the username Nikoalakuma. But it's not a dead name. But, like, I still use it for my koala character. I still use it as my birth name, but, like, you know, I just have a preference.
I'm seeing this sort of common thread where it's just, like, concern for the indigenous people, disliking Tony Abbott because he's just, you know, really a racist, and then, you know, sex positivity. This is also, like, a theme of, like, liberation and kind of frustration with anybody who, like, goes against that type of liberation. And it feels a little bit like Gamergate. At the time, you might have perceived it as being against something liberating.
Yeah, basically.
Okay.
That's most likely what happened.
Have there been changes in your politics since the pandemic?
Just more very left-leaning, and the type of individual the anti-woke grifters and anti-SJWs would warn you about, basically, where I'm like, to quote the stuff I support on my my card, I'm, you know, for Black Lives Matter, or all cops are bad, abortions, LGBTQ, rights and transgender rights, disabled rights, indigenous rights, pro-Palestine, polyamory, sex work, open relationships, and that, non-binary people are valid, ace and aro are valid, pansexuals and bisexuals are valid, and people to enjoy whatever fictional stuff they want as long as they don't hurt themselves or others, and know the difference between fiction and reality, even if said thing makes people uncomfortable. But that's a very separate topic for another time. But that's basically most of my views are very, very left leaning, basically.
When you come across a brand new issue, how do you determine if you're going to be on the right side of it?
I maybe try to do my proper research on it, or maybe watch a YouTube video or something about it. What's a recent thing I can think of that happened?
Well, I think what caught my eye, for instance, is is being pro-Palestine, because I feel like that's sort of new. I think for the American left, but also just the Western left writ large.
Oh yeah.
Palestine was
I noticed that because I didn't realize how long that was a thing until it was more shown up. And to be clear, me being pro-Palestine doesn't mean I'm against Jewish people and all that. I just don't like how Israel is handling things, if that makes sense.
Right. And I think that perhaps somebody might just look at homophobia within Islam, and then look at a place like Tel Aviv in Israel where gay people are around, and can live, and they might kind of be Palestine's homophobic. So Palestine's actually the aggressor in this whole situation. How come you didn't follow that train of thought necessarily?
I guess I went by the belief that innocent people don't, especially children and people in general, innocent people don't deserve to be bombed or killed and stuff. If that makes sense.
No. I completely agree with you. I'm not laughing because you're wrong. I'm laughing because I completely agree, and it should be so obvious, I think, even to
it should be so obvious. I don't see what's wrong with me saying I don't think innocent people should be fucking bombed and killed just for existing.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
There is one thing I just remembered. I apologize, but I think something I remember that made me more anti-capitalism as well was compared to me being middle class and stuff, and seeing some of my friends who were a bit more poor and were unable to get on the disability support pension or Centrelink over here, or struggling with money and stuff. And I guess what made me also very left-leaning or socialist was me being why can't everyone have, the same thing of having a roof over their head and food on their plate and enough money to live and survive and to do what they want to do in life.
I see where you're coming from there. And once again, I reading off of everything on your card, and then with the addition of, because I don't think you mentioned being anti-capitalist on your card, but if you did.
No, I didn't.
Yeah.
I didn't. I probably should.
But I mean, once again, I feel like the commonality with all these things is a liberatory struggle. Literally all of
Pretty
these things.
much.
Yeah. It seems like that has just expanded and expanded over the course of your lifetime. That might be the lens, I guess, for how you determine whether or not you'll be on the right side of history.
Yeah, very, as I said, very left-leaning socialist punk type views.
I see.
I guess listening to a lot of Green Day or so explains a lot.
I mean, I feel like I'm at the end of your evolution. Do you have any final thoughts or is there anything you think that I might have missed that you'd like to add?
There was a time I tried to make myself smaller, or tried to be I don't want to bother anyone with my views because of like certain people I used to hang around with that were either fence sitters or like more right leaning, and I used to kind of made myself more quiet and like in order to still be around those certain groups. But I've realized over time how that like affected my mental health and affected me as a person, and especially after I think like a year or so ago being like thrown out and abandoned and been like flip-flopped by people I thought were getting better with their views on certain things, only to flip-flop back to being right-leaning and stuff, and being like, oh, trans, if you're gonna tell your kid about transgender stuff, that's grooming and pedophilia and brainwashing, and I'm just like, what the fuck? I think just being away from those type of people have really made me realize, this is who I am, these are my morals and values, and the reason that's especially the reason I have my views on my card, to give people that this is what I stand for, and if you have an issue with that, get out.
I think we came to the end of the interview. Is there anything you'd like to plug, or anything more you'd like to say?
Like my streams and stuff, but I'm gonna be honest, I have not been bothered streaming in ages. But I will definitely plug some of the blogs I wrote that basically explain more of my views and how on like certain subjects. So, and I most of the stuff like my socials and all that will be on my card link as well. And I just mainly just do random shit when I feel like it, mainly. So yeah, that's basically it.
I see. Thank you very much for being on the podcast.
Not a problem. Thank you for inviting me. I had a fun time yapping and rambling about I guess politics and stuff in a very fun, chill, civil way.
That's my goal. I mean, like I've interviewed plenty of people that I disagree with, but I literally I tried to be as non-biased as possible when I interview and ask like clarifying questions, and then be like an obnoxious devil's advocate like once in a while. But but I think overall it's like a chill thing. You're right. The very few like chill politics podcasts, I think.
Hell yeah, that's awesome, and I hope it goes well for you.
Oh, thank you.
You're welcome.
To listen to me whine about